So, you just built a shed and you're like, well, I need some doors for that shed. And so you went down to the store and you thought, I'll take a look, see how much they are. And you went, holy cow, they're more expensive than the entire shed I just built. So what do? You build your own, of course, because that's what we do here at Shaloha Creations. And you can follow along and watch, see how to do it. So follow along, here we go, let's do this. Oh, I might want to mention, this is just 2x8 fascia that you can get at any box store. It's kiln dried, pre-primed, but it's on the cheap. And I like cheap. Let's do this. Okay, to get started here, I went ahead and ran these boards through the joiner. I needed at least one straight edge so that I can finish them up on the table saw to get them down to dimension. I don't know if you can see that there, but this board has quite a bit of a bow in it. I had to run it through quite a few times to get it straight. Alright, now that we got the one straight edge on the boards, we can set up the table saw and run the boards through and get them to the width that we need. This will be the stiles and the top and bottom rails for both of the doors. And also in the near future, I'm hoping to get my dust collection under control. You can see here I'm using a mask because this thing just shoots dust everywhere. Alright, now that we've got these run through the table saw, we can go ahead and cut them down to length. This is one of the rails that I'm cutting right here. And the bottom rail is typically a little wider than the top rail on a door, and that's mostly for aesthetic reasons. But it also gives you a little bit of wiggle room if you need to shorten the door a little bit for, say, weather stripping or something. Okay, so the boards are all milled and cut to dimension. So here I'm just dry fitting these boards together. I'm going to go ahead and square them up and clamp them together so they don't move. I'll make my marks on each of the rails and so that I can use the domino to make the mortises. Let me just say, I am not sponsored by Festool. Though Festool, I would love that. Let's go ahead and get started with this. Let me show you how easy it is to make a mortise with this. Alright, that's it. The whole process took me like 15 minutes. Something that normally would have taken me maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours. I love this machine. It's awesome. So, let's get this thing together. If you're not familiar with the domino, it's basically a biscuit joiner on steroids. Where typically a biscuit is used for alignment, not so much strength in a joint. These things can actually do both. They add a significant amount of strength and they also help with alignment. And the process is so fast and easy. It's just, it's one of my top favorite tools, I think, in my entire shop. Okay, just a quick view of the setup I have for cutting the rabbet in the door for accepting the panel. This is just a 1/2 inch routering bit because we have a 1/2 inch material that's going to be the panel for the door. The bit is 1/2 inch wide this way, and it's a 1/2 inch distance from the face of the bearing to the outside edge of the bit. And I find that this works great, and I'll show you the process right now. Alright, in retrospect, looking back on this, I probably should have used my bigger router to do this process, just a little bit more horsepower. This worked just fine, but I think a little bit bigger router would have made the process a little quicker and cleaner. But having said that, this little DeWalt trim router, talk about another tool in my shop that I absolutely love. Here we're just getting the piece of 3/4 inch birch plywood cut down to size. This is going to be the panels for the inside of the doors, and then I'll use my track saw to get them to the right length. So here I'm just putting a chamfer on the inside corner of the door. That helps keep from splintering on the sharp edges, and also aesthetically looks nice. Okay, if you remember back when we made the rabbet for the door to accept the panel, we used this rabbeting bit, and it's round. So when it hits a corner, it actually makes a round corner. So in order for our panels to sit properly, we actually got to round off the corner of our panel. That way when we put it all together, it'll all fit. So, there's several ways to do this. I opted for the belt sander just because I had one already set up and ready. But you can do it with a coping saw, you could do it with a router, you can do it, there's a variety of methods. Okay, quick tip. In order for your panel to slide in easily into your rabbets in the doors, a good thing to do is put a little chamfer just on the outside edge. And this will keep it from catching as it goes in. Just like that. Doesn't have to be much. Just as a quick tip right here, wood expands and contracts, so you want to make sure not to get the glue inside of the slot you made for the panel. You want the panel to be able to freely move inside of the slot, so that when the door expands and contracts, or the panel expands and contracts, that you don't get unwanted cracking or movement in the joints of your door. Just as a quick tip, good glue up practices for a door and actually other projects as well. It's good to put one clamp on top, and also you're going to want to put one clamp on the bottom. And what this does is equalizes the pressure on both sides, so you don't get bowing one direction or the other. Okay, I wanted to show you guys real quick a simple jig to make when you're on a job site or even in your shop to hold your doors upright when you're working on the hinge plates. All it is this, you take a piece of 2x4, which looks like this, and you cut it lengthwise, so you end up with 2 wedges. And after you get your 2 wedges, you fasten another piece of 2x4 across from it, so you have a slot that your door can go into. You take your wedge, you slide it in here with your door in place, and it'll wedge your door in and keep it sitting upright. Now that probably doesn't make any sense, but I'll show you this right now. So, all right, once your door is inside the slot, all you have to do is you take your wedge, you just slide it in, and it wedges your door in place. Now your door's secure enough that now you can work on the top and cut your hinge plates in, and you're good to go. I've actually made quite a few doors at this point in my life, and believe it or not, this is the first time I've ever actually used one of these door hinge jigs. I didn't have high hopes for this piece of plastic, but believe it or not, it worked fairly well. I was pleasantly surprised. You can see I'm fitting it in right here and going, wow, it actually worked. So here I'm just making a piece of molding that will accept some weather stripping to prevent weather coming in between the doors. You'll see I'm going to be attaching it right here to this is the left door.
And then here I'm just adding some caulking to the exterior side of the doors. This will keep water from being able to run down into the seams. It's also still flexible, so the panel will be able to still move inside of its slot. And then here you can see I'm also going to prime the doors. I think it's a good idea to prime, not just use an all-in-one paint. Prime kind of acts as a glue. It adheres the paint to the doors. And I just think it's good practice to use primer first, not just an all-in-one primer and paint, especially for exterior doors. Also, it's a good idea to use a good exterior paint, maybe like an oil base or a polyurethane base paint, especially for exterior, because it's, you got all the weather and elements that it's got to deal with, including the sun. And so that's what I've got here. I think this is actually a urethane paint. I like urethanes because they actually dry harder and they're less tacky. So when they dry, so you're not going to get these doors that, after they heat up a little bit, stick to weather molding or anything like that.
Come on.
So this is the fun part where I get to hold the door up with one foot and then try to put the hinge into place and screw it in all at the same time. Yeah, I know I make it look easy. That's just because, well, the magic of video and editing. Because this is just a shed and doesn't actually require me to have any kind of actual locking mechanism or traditional handle, I went ahead and opted for these ball springs to keep the door shut. I originally was going to put them both on top and bottom, but I found that the top ones held the doors in place just fine. And here you can actually see me shutting it for the first time and realizing, yeah, that works. There's the, here comes a look of contentment. For these handle placements, I just put them where I aesthetically thought they looked pleasing to the eye and also were comfortable for ergonomic purposes, as far as opening the doors. And yeah, just screwed them in.
Well, hey guys, that does it for this video. If you made it this far, I appreciate it. I think the doors turned out pretty nice. If you like this video, please go ahead and hit the subscribe and like buttons. And as always, Shaloha.